The Japanese Grand Prix concluded successfully last Sunday, handing over one more victory to the Red Bull team, which experienced a surprising decline at Singapore 1 week ago. Red Bull dominated the whole weekend with greater control, despite the considerable attacks from Ferrari and McLaren. At the end of the Japanese Grand Prix, the Milton Keynes-based squad was able to clinch the Constructors' title successfully for the second time in Raw, despite there being several rounds to go in the 2023 season. This is the race report of the Japanese Grand Prix, and we are going to tell you how the race in Suzuka unfolded. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. Regardless of all the bad memories in Singapore, Red Bull and Verstappen found their winning formula again at Suzuka by dominating all three practice sessions. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri showed great form during practice sessions, hinting for much improved performance on Sunday evening. Ferrari and Mercedes also showed good pace, good enough to fight for podiums despite their challengers not having good enough pace to challenge the RB19. In the Q1 of the qualifying session, Verstappen topped the timesheets by recording a lap time of 1 minute and 29.878 seconds. Norris was in second place with just 0.185 seconds behind the championship leader. However, the session was red flagged as Sargent found a tyre wall at the final corner of the track. Bottas, Stroll, Hülkenberg and Zhou were knocked out alongside with uninjured Sargent at the end of Q1 based on lap times that were recorded before red flag in the session. At the end of Q2, Leclerc was able to beat the pace of Verstappen's RB19 by 0.024 seconds, pushing him to the second position of the standings. Lawson missed the opportunity of getting selected into Q3 by a slim margin, and he was knocked out at the end of Q2 alongside with Gasly, Albon, Ocon and Magnussen. Verstappen set a lap time of 1 minute 29.012 seconds in his first attempt by beating Norris and Piastri. He further improved it to 1 minute and 28.877 seconds with the support of his dominant RB19, but the efforts of McLaren drivers were good enough only to beat Checo's RB19. Leclerc reserved the fourth spot of the starting grid by pushing Perez to the fifth position. Behind the Mexican, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Tsunoda and Alonso reserved the spots within the top 10 of the starting grid. With the hot conditions prevailing around the circuit for hours before the race start, teams were searching for the best race strategy and the tyre compounds for the maximised results. Medium compound was the choice of the majority of drivers who occupied the top spots of the starting grid, but Tsunoda, Alonso, Lawson, Bottas, Stroll, Hülkenberg and Zhou turned to softs to gain an advantage over other drivers at the start. When the lights went off, Verstappen came under the attack of the McLaren duo as the F1 pundits predicted. When they reached turn 1, Piastri was attacking inside and Norris was on the outside. However, the championship leader Verstappen was able to defend that attack very well, developing a considerable gap with the two McLarens running behind. Meanwhile, a chain of collisions was observed at the back of the pack, including Ocon, Zhou, Bottas and Albon. Race control immediately deployed the safety car to clean the track before further proceedings, and all four cars involved in the collision were called to the pits for repair activities. Sargent also entered the pit lane to serve his time penalty. The front wing of Sergio's Challenger was damaged due to the contact with Hamilton when he tried to avoid contact with Sainz. The incident had pushed the 7-time world champion into the grass, but he was lucky to save his Challenger from further damage. Perez decided to take his new nose on lap 3, but he had to serve a 5-second time penalty, not for making contact with Hamilton, but for a safety car infringement. The race was resumed at the end of the 4th lap, after clearing the debris spread over the track area. Within a short time period after the race resumed, Sargent ran into the back of Bottas's Challenger, experiencing another 5-second time penalty. Bottas retired after this collision as his car was beyond the limit of an instant repair. Meanwhile, Russell and Hamilton were observed to engage in a wheel-to-wheel battle, swapping their positions, which led to an increase in tensions between the two teammates. Perez, who was on a recovery drive after taking a new nose, was able to gain some track position before making contact with the Haas Challenger of Magnussen, which resulted to spin him. This resulted in damaging his front wing again and had to hit the pits again for a change. The Mexican driver was handed over a 5-second time penalty for the contact that that he made. A virtual safety car was deployed to clear the debris on the track, and at that moment, Piastri entered the pit lane to switch from medium to hard, so the virtual safety car helped him to save some time during the process, but none of his front-running rivals were able to take that advantage. Meanwhile, Red Bull engineers decided to retire Perez as his damage was more severe than they initially thought. The race leader Max Verstappen decided to switch to a new set of mediums on lap 17, and Norris temporarily took the lead. But the Briton also decided to pit one lap later and rejoin the track behind his teammate. Different drivers followed different strategies, but Alonso was unhappy about the team's orders to pit him on lap 12, which was a little bit early compared to his rivals. So he lost his track positions to Ocon and Hamilton and expressed his frustrations over the radio, saying, "You've thrown me to the lions by stopping that early." Further damaging Aston Martin's plans for Suzuka, they had to retire Stroll's car too. On lap 25, Russell decided to take a fresh set of hard tyres, but he rejoined as 9th after losing some important track positions. Meanwhile, Verstappen was able to develop the race lead up to 10 seconds with the McLaren running behind him. However, Norris and Piastri were running very close to each other, causing a heavy blow to the plans of the Grove-based team. Leclerc and Hamilton decided to enter the pit lane on lap 35 to take fresher sets of hard tyres, and Piastri also followed a similar strategy one lap later. Norris responded to these pit stops made by the front runners by pitting hards on lap 37. Verstappen also decided to complete the rest of the race on hards by making his final pit stop on lap 38. Perez was sent back to the track by Red Bull engineers, surprising everyone. Their aim was to complete a lap and serve the 5-second time penalty imposed on him earlier to avoid the risk of carrying those sanctions over to the next round in Qatar. Russell's one-stop strategy appeared to be a failure as he started to lose track positions one by one. He started to defend the attack from Hamilton, but it created the risk of coming both under the attack of Sainz, who closely followed the Mercedes duo. So Mercedes race engineers ordered the Mercedes drivers to swap their track positions. Verstappen crossed the line 20 seconds clear of Norris. Even though Piastri experienced a fading away of his pace, the Australian did his best to make sure that he didn't lose his maiden podium finish. Ferrari and Mercedes drivers sealed the positions of the final standings from 4 to 7. Leclerc crossed the line first, and Hamilton, Sainz and Russell crossed the line behind him. Alonso sealed the 8th position, picking some important points to his standings in the Drivers' Championship. After swapping their track positions under the team orders, Ocon and Gasly crossed the line, bringing a double top 10 finish for the Enstone-based team after a series of retirements for Ocon over the last few weekends. Lawson and Tsunoda were unable to earn any points at the end of the Japanese Grand Prix, settling for 11th and 12th positions in the final standings. Behind the AlphaTauri duo, Zhou, Hülkenberg and Magnussen crossed the line. At the end of the race in Suzuka, 5 drivers experienced DNFs due to the contacts they made during the race, except Stroll. After a heavy decline at Singapore, Red Bull was able to find their winning form again at Suzuka, and Verstappen's sole effort was good enough to clinch the Constructors' title despite Checo's early retirement. Last year, he became a 2-time world champion at the end of the Japanese Grand Prix. This year, he has to wait till the Qatar Grand Prix to collect one more driver's title to his name. How do you rate the Japanese Grand Prix? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. See you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.